So here's what we're trying to fix. That's a lot of play. You can see the front wheels are not turning. So here's the Maximum Motorsports solid steering shaft. Comes with detailed instructions. And here's why we are replacing the shaft. You can see the rag joint is completely broken. And the first step is to remove this nut and bolt. Okay, so I got 11/16. I tried this with a wrench. Couldn't get enough leverage on it, so I'm gonna try it with a breaker bar and a socket. So 11/16 on the bottom, 5/8 up on top. So you need to hold the top. Okay, the factory steering shaft, you can see doesn't collapse. So you need to disconnect the rack and pull the rack forward so that you can slide this side off. There's also a nut here, or a bolt here, that we will need to take off before we'll be able to slide the shaft off of the rack. I'll rotate this around and get to the clamp. See it? Spray with a little bit of this PB Blaster, favorite stuff. And 7/16, so get the clamp bolt out. And I don't think it'll come out. Let's see if it'll slide off of there. Okay, I don't know if we'll be able to get this off. We might be able to, because the rag joint is broken. Okay, so after prying and squeezing and dropping everything, that's about as far as I could get it. Looks like it's almost out. And I'm going to disconnect the front of the rack and it should be able to come out the rest of the way. All right, disconnecting the front rack is pretty easy. Just got these two bolts right here, one here, and one there. And you don't have to take the whole rack out, it just needs to slide forward just a little bit. All right, these are probably going to be kind of tight, so hit with PB Blaster. 18 mil deep socket. Okay, I believe these are turning from the backside, so we're going to have to put a wrench in there and hold the backside of them. Yeah. Okay, the backside is 15, so we'll hold those. Okay, so I took them out to about the end of the threads. We'll stick a pry bar in there, see if we can pull the rack out a little bit, get some clearance. So I just pried the rack forward about 1 inch. Let's see if that gives us enough. Well, that inch got us a little bit closer. I'm going to probably just take the nut off this one side and pry the rack over. Okay, so I got this side. I took the driver's side nut and washer off, pulled it almost out. It felt like the shaft might have already popped off of there. So yeah, the bottom end. There you go. Here you can see the difference between the two. Obviously this is what broke. Okay, so we got to take this little Allen key out of the Maximum Motorsports one prior to install. So one thing they talk about in the instructions is make sure that the threaded portion, that when you put the bolt in there, the Allen key that comes from it, you want to make sure that it threads into the threaded portion, as opposed to if you put it in from this side where it threads in. It won't hold as well that way. So you're going to put it in through the non-threaded side, and so that it actually threads. So we're going to do that this way. And I sprayed the tip with some PB Blaster. Let's see if we can get it. I think we got the hole lined up pretty well. Now we're going to put the factory bolt, the nut in. All right, let's see if we can get the bolt in there. Okay, so the input shaft bolt right there gets torqued to 25 foot-pounds. The bolt up there gets torqued to 54 foot-pounds. And the nuts on the front of the steering rack get torqued to 40 foot-pounds. Okay, the last steps for installing the solid steering shaft is you gotta center the steering rack, and Maximum Motorsports provides detailed instructions on how to do this. The first step is to make sure the rack is centered inside there. The reason why they do it is because the shaft, if you noticed earlier in the video, it's splined to where it can be put in any position. So if you have it turn a little bit, and then if the wheels are turned and the steering wheel is straight, as you go down the road, your steering wheel is going to be off to the side. I had the wheels straight, and I thought I had the steering wheel straight, but I drove the car and it was off a little bit, so I think it might be one spline off. So I'm going to follow these steps and see if I can't get it exactly centered. So the first step is to rotate the steering wheel clockwise until full lock. And now you put a piece of tape on the 12 o'clock position and mark it A. Then you're going to rotate the steering wheel counterclockwise all the way to full lock. But when you do so, they want you to count how many rotations it is. 1, 2. So I counted, it was about 2.5 rotations. And now we're going to put a piece of tape on there, mark it B. Okay, from here it says take the total number from lock to lock and divide it by 2. So we had 2.5 rotations, so 1 1/4 is what we go backwards by. So there's 1 1/4. So since my steering wheel is centered and the steering rack is centered as well, looks like we're good. It says that if you go through the previous steps of centering the steering rack, and if your steering wheel is crooked, let's say you got the A and the B marks off to the side and your steering wheel is a little crooked, you would disconnect the steering shaft from the rack without moving the rack, and then you would turn the steering wheel straight and then reconnect the steering shaft, and everything would be straight. So anything that I felt when I was driving, it was just slightly off a little bit, It's probably due to an alignment. It probably needs an alignment. Who knows how long that rag joint was broken like that. So that's it. Here you can see it's tight now.